Opopka Studios in Oklahoma City. You're watching the Press Row. We're brought to you by Papa John's. You can go online right now and buy your pizza at papajohns.com. I'm Jenny Carlson here with Barry Trammell. Time for 5 and 5. Barry, we've got 5 topics, about a minute each. Let's get right to it. Hey, who has the best chance of beating out Baylor for the Big 12 title?
I think it's Oklahoma State, and here's why. The Cowboys get Baylor in Stillwater, and OU has to go to Baylor. Texas has to go to Baylor. Tech has played its way out of the talk. That leaves OSU. The Cowboys still have a tough schedule. They host OU, they host Baylor, they have to go to Texas, but it's all in front of them, and they get the tough game in Stillwater. The reason we picked OSU, remember, back in the summer, was the schedule broke their way. We're seeing the benefit of that now. Baylor comes to Stillwater. The last 2 times Baylor's been in Stillwater, very good teams. Robert Griffin quarterbacking, and the Cowboys blow them out early. Tough to win in Stillwater. I think OSU has the best chance.
Yeah, I do too. I totally go with OSU on that. And, I saw that Robert Griffin-led Bear team come in there a couple years ago, and he was on the sideline by halftime. I'm sorry, the OSU offense was on the sideline by halftime. I mean, Robert Griffin totally not a factor in that game because of what OSU did to him. And that was a decent OSU defense, but, they weren't world beaters. So Baylor going to OSU, for whatever reason, has been a little bit of an Achilles heel over the years. I think OSU's got a chance to knock them off. Does that ultimately give OSU the Big 12 championship? I don't know, but I think they are the big fly in Baylor's hopes. All right, what about this one, Barry? What's the magic number for OU's defense against Baylor? Great question about Thursday night's game.
Well, the Sooners, I think the Sooners need to hold Baylor to a reasonable number. I don't see the Blake Bell offense getting into the 40s against Baylor, even in the shootout. I don't see the Sooners rolling up and down the field possession after possession. I think they need to play ball control, and I think they need to get help from that defense. If Mike Stoops' unit can hold Baylor to 31, then I think the Sooners have a good chance to win. But if Baylor gets to 35 or 38, I don't know. To me, the magic number is 31. Let Baylor have 31 points and take your chances.
I think maybe stretch it a little bit further. I think maybe if you say 34, you could still see Oklahoma's offense maybe getting it done. You know what could be a big help is Oklahoma's defense scoring a touchdown or getting a special teams touchdown, which Oklahoma's not really had, especially in the special teams games, has not really had, any electric plays. That could be a huge help. Or if they return an interception or a fumble for a touchdown, which they have done on the defense, that could be a huge help. That could help maybe stretch that magic number a little bit further when the offense doesn't have to score every point on its own. I think that could ultimately help. We'll see. All right, what about this, Barry? Why the Thunder's early struggles?
Well, they have stunk. There's no doubt about that. 2 wins and 1 loss, and they look bad in the 2 wins. I think it comes from Russell Westbrook being out some. I also think it comes from the adjustment. They're learning to play without Kevin Martin or James Harden clone. So, I also think that I think the Thunder has reached a sort of a new plateau in their existence, which is, I'm not sure the regular season has them all fired up, and I don't mean they're not trying. I just think they realize this team will be defined come spring, and if they win 60 games and get the number 1 seed in the West, doesn't matter. What they do in the playoffs is the ultimate thing. So I'm not too concerned about the Thunder right now after 3 or 4 games. Now, if they go 20, 25 games sluggish, yes, but I think the Thunder's reached a maturity where they realize, you know what, this is an April, May, June adventure here, and what we do in November, we're just trying to get through it.
Yeah, and I tell you what, these first 3 games that they've played, not exactly games you get super fired up about. Now, obviously, you get paid to go out there and win ball games if you're in the NBA. I understand that, but still, not super fantastic opponents that they played. Yeah, Minnesota could potentially be a playoff team, but, games that are coming up, you look at a game like the Dallas game, a team that's become a rivalry sort of game. Games like that, if they come out sluggish and really get beat back and get beat down by double digits, then maybe your concern starts to rise. But let's get some games against some really top-level opponents and see how they do in those before we sound the alarm. All right, Barry, what about this? Russell Westbrook returned a month sooner than billed. Hey, what's your best fast healing story?
Well, I got to tell you, in 1995, I broke my leg. Just snapped it in two playing softball. I had a major surgery on crutches, the whole deal. But I can't remember how long they said I'd be laid up. But like a month before I was supposed to, I actually found it feeling pretty good. So I started trying around the house. I just started walking without the crutches, and I did okay. My wife comes home. I didn't say anything, but I didn't walk with the crutches. She didn't notice. We go to dinner. We head out to the car. It's parked on the street. We walk out together, and she gets like 20 yards in front of me because, of course, I'm going very slow. She gets in the car. I mosey around, get in the car. We go to dinner. We're sitting there eating dinner. We're headed home. When we get home, all of a sudden we're walking into the house, and she said, "Hey, where's your crutches?" I said, "Thanks for noticing."
I thought you were going to tell me you cut off the cast.
No.
That would have been the ultimate. You know, I don't really have a fast healing story that I remember, but the thing that the injury I most remember from childhood was we lived on the farm in Kansas, and we had gravel driveways. So learning to ride a bike on a gravel driveway, not the most fun. I took a tumble one time and totally ripped up my hands. Oh, it hurt like crazy. But I tell you what, I was back on that bike as soon as I could. Loved riding my bike around the house. So, but that was not fun.
Bad things happen on those Kansas farms. Yeah. I've seen The Wizard of Oz.
All right, let's get back to it one more time. Who's most responsible for the Richie Incognito scandal? Barry, obviously what's going on in Miami?
Well, I mean, other than Richie Incognito, right. I think the Dolphins. Where is the organization? Where's the coaching staff?
Where's the adult supervision?
Where's everybody?
Goodness gracious,
one of two things is true, and neither one's good for the Dolphins. Either they didn't know what was going on, which is scandalous in and of itself, or they did know what was going on and they did nothing to take care of it. Listen, even if it's football players, nobody wants to work with a jackass. Nobody wants to work with a knucklehead. And just because he's 300 pounds and can forklift a bus, you don't put up with that stuff. And the Dolphins turned a blind eye. It blew up on them. We see what we see now. Well,
and now there's reports out that the Dolphins asked Richie Incognito to toughen up Jonathan Martin, which if they enabled this and then turned a blind eye, I mean, what a mess. I don't know what the NFL can do in terms of, penalties and those sorts of things. You know, the Dolphins, they may take some steps against coaches and against Richie Incognito. I don't know, but the NFL, I think, is going to have to step in because a couple years ago when OSU played in the Fiesta Bowl, I had a chance to talk to Jonathan Martin. He was at Stanford, an offensive lineman playing and blocking for Andrew Luck. He was just like most of those Stanford guys. Upstanding, well-spoken, thoughtful, all the things that you would expect out of somebody going to a really high-level academic institution. I heard he could have been a fourth-generation Harvard student. His great-grandfather, his grandfather, and his father went to Harvard. This kid is the kind of guy that if you're the Dolphins, you want to put out in front of people. You want to say, this is one of our guys. And instead, it sounds like they let him get thrown to the wolves. It's just a sad story, and I think somebody has to pay for that. I think somebody with the Dolphins is going to have to be held accountable. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.